Morning, guys. This morning we've got in the Herald Sun in Victoria stories of a leaked magistrate brief or whatnot on how to handle bail, mostly on the youth bail. And this is just the stuff we can see, which led me to more thoughts of the disgusting people that I've met that reside, that have done what that are part of, they are the problem. They're the people that have put us in this position, the Pappases of this world. The Labor puppet Pappas and his little family. So let me explain, before the Pappases become chief magistrates and magistrates, let me explain the character that resides in the Pappas family. So once when I was represented by a Pappas, there's a thing that happens. It's a thing, believe me. I've experienced it that many times and heard the conversations with other low-level, non-violent, petty criminals that it is definitely a thing. And what that is legal aid funded lawyers, legal aid, so government funded. So if you're down and out homeless, you get what's called legal aid. You have to have representation. And let me put this out there and make this very clear first and foremost. If you choose to represent yourself, they will punish you for it, because in their eyes, you've thumbed the nose up at their rort of a system. So what they have is they have a legal aid system where they pretend you can represent yourself, but realistically they want you to have lawyers, because hey, the lawyers, they're all in the same trough together. So what this has created is, keep in mind, like say a murder case or a gangster, so when a gangster, and I knew a few of these scenarios, can pay 100,000, 200,000, they'll get the top Pappases who are more than prepared to cut a deal on getting those drug dealers off scot-free in exchange for gun imports, even when they're aware that they would have to have been aware that these gun imports were being arranged after the fact. Can you prove it? Of course not. Do they, they would cut off, I don't want to know, but they would know. Anyway, but they're getting 250,000, they don't care, mate. So anyway, you've got that kind of money getting paid to the top Pappases. But legal aid fund the junkies and the petty non-violent criminals. Legal aid will fund about $1,500 to $1,800, and I don't even think it's per court appearance. I think it's per mention. So if there's a couple of adjournments in there, they're working for next to nothing in comparison, especially in comparison to the drug money and the big, when they're milking the gangsters and whatnot. Put it in comparison to a Erin Patterson trial where she's paying 250,000 minimum. So then legal aid come along and fund. So what the Pappases of this world, before they rise to the high ranks of magistrate, do, this is definitely a thing. You have these young, pretty junior lawyers. I promise you, they come in and they wiggle, they're very flirtatious, and they try and convince you to plea to charges that you can read. Hang on, what do you mean? There's no evidence on that. And they're getting all flirtatious and putting their, I'm thinking, oh, yuck, what are you doing what I think you're doing? Anyway, so I took the advice of this one young, buxom, pretty lady once who did this. And then I started, well, hang on a minute. I saw another person, I just got 3 years. 3 years? For one book? Yeah, such and such told me just to plead to it. What? And then I started, hang on a minute, I questioned a few others and I saw a pattern here. And basically what was happening at this Pappas fraternity, the young, flirtatious legal aid appointed lawyer who hadn't earned her stripes in Victoria's very dubious law and order system at this stage, obviously. She hadn't been raised to the ranks of barrister, so she still had to deal with the, legal aid cases. And her way of doing it, her way of impressing the Pappas, Chief Pappas, was to, wiggle her bum and flirt with the guys, convince them she's got her best interests at heart, and then do what's called sell them up the river, get them 2 years, 3 years for sentences that, had you paid, could you have afforded to pay like the drug dealers, you would have walked free of. You would have walked out no problem. But because you couldn't afford to pay, you were left with this flirtatious girl trying to convince, and I met about four blokes. One, I couldn't tell him. I said, mate, she is selling you up the river. Oh yeah, no, but she said this. You could tell he had stars in her eyes. You could tell he was like wooed by the magic of her curves. Oh yeah, but she said, oh no, she's all right, Oh, I saw her one day out the front of the magistrates, and she said this to me, and like that. Like, I think she likes me. Next time I saw him, you were right, 3 years. 3 years for one non-violent burglary with nobody present. Like, just yuck. These are the type of people that the Pappases are. These are the type of people that they said, well, like, if I ever wrote them a letter burning them or being sarcastic to them, it was like, oh, you are so sexist. Are you kidding? Have a look at the quality of human being that exists. Have a look at the quality of human being that exists in the Pappas family. They're prepared to have that sort of ethical and moral compass. They're the Pappases. They're the people who have led to the mess that Victoria is in at the moment. They're the people that I had friends of Carl Williams, rapists, sex offenders, gangsters who got bashed and walked around on a leash while they were in prison. But the Pappases, because he paid them, the Pappases loved the bloke. I kid you not. It's the most disgusting, yuck situation I've ever experienced in my life. And you could say simply, yeah, well, that's great, that means stay away. Great, yeah, right, stay away, don't break laws, don't have any reason to have anything to do with it. That doesn't cut it. Because when you've got machete-wielding teens killing each other, you've got women and children dying at increasing levels, you'd have to be a dead-set coward to know the truth, to know how dodgy the Pappases really are, to know the severity of brokenness in our system and not do anything about it, or not at least try to do something about it. And that leads me to, when I tried to do something about it, we are that broken as a state, as a nation in our bureaucracy. We are that far gone, thanks to Daniel Andrews mostly, but all politicians have got a part to play. All our leaders have got a part to play. Our media has a part to play too. We are that far broken, IBACs, you can't report it. You can't report that level of corruption because it just goes nowhere. They're designed to protect it. When was the last time you saw IBAC in Victoria, the Independent Broad-Based Anti-Corruption Unit, expose anything? Never, because it's set up to protect the politicians. It's set up not to catch them by surprise. Hang on a minute, don't expose that childcare corruption, please. Oh no, hang on, no, don't charge that police officer with, abuse of power charges for abusing his surveillance equipment, leading to somebody running down the Burke Street Mall. What we'll do is we'll pretend to investigate it and just let it go, because otherwise we'll lose power. We'll be voted out next election on that. Don't do that. So and the worst part is the media are well aware of it. The media are well aware of the brokenness in this system, in the Victoria, but you've got to ask yourself, how far were they part of it, or is it just that their hands are tied? They can't really rattle cages too much, because then what happens is they just get no invites to the bikie raids, no attention from the dodgy politicians, you see? that's the jury's still out. And I think there's a little bit of both, to be honest. I think there's some very good media people who are just in that Milgram experiment scenario, basically the effects of the milk, where they can't really do anything about it as much as they can see how damaged situations are, but they can't. How can they? What, have a little bit of a politician coming on your show, or have zero? You see? Anyway, I just thought I'd let you know of the disgustingness that is our judicial system, that the protection of it, why court cases take 2+ years, because it's all doctored so that they can milk it for the most money they can. And then you have disgusting characters in it who do worse, like flirt, like they're prepared, they're prepared to prostitute themselves to get you to agree with them, even if it's against their client, which is me in this case, or him in that case, their client's best self-interests. They're just not good people. Sadly, greed does that to a lot of people. Very sadly, greed does it to a lot of people. And unfortunately, we're a long way from being a decent society again. A long way.